Episode 4, October 17th, 2014. I am your host, Mike Lewis. I'm the Geek of Mini, Master of None. Thanks for joining me as I run down the top news stories from the past week in movies, comics, games, tech, and more. Thank you for your feedback as I continue to improve and grow this show. One thing I would like some feedback on is, what do you think about the name of the show? Right now it is the Weekly Geek News Show. If you have a better name that you think I should use, go ahead and let me know in the comments, or just let me know. This week's show is going to be a little bit longer than last week's. We had a lot of news this week come out of Google announcements, Apple's iPad and other item announcements, and also the New York Comic Con was this week. A lot of movie news and other news coming out of there. So those are the things that we'll be talking about this week. Also a little bit of sports news as well. So with that, on to the news. First off, Google announced the new Android called Lollipop this week, and also new members of the Nexus lineup, including the Nexus 6, the Nexus 9, and the Nexus Player. The Nexus 6 is a new flagship phone for Google with a 5.9-inch screen. It will actually be the first Android device to run Android 5.0 Lollipop. Other features of this phone: Qualcomm Snapdragon 805 chipset. It's clocked at 2.7 gigahertz. 13 megapixel camera. Also, it will be available in both 32 or 64 gigabytes of internal memory. Pre-orders for this phone will kick off on October 29th with a full retail launch to follow sometime in next month, being November. Also, the new tablet from Google, Nexus 9, is 8.9-inch tablet, and this time it's built by HTC instead of Asus. Asus has built the last two tablets, the Nexus 7 for Google. This Nexus 9 will be available for pre-order this Friday. Actually, that's today, and in stores on November 9th. This tablet will start at $399 for the base 16GB Wi-Fi model, and then up from there for the larger sizes and also the 32GB LTE model. The resolution is actually pretty good on this one. It's 2048 by 1536. And Google and HTC have designed a keyboard folio case that will attach magnetically to the Nexus 9. Also, finally, last Google announcement, the Nexus Player. It's an Android-based set-top box for streaming and games and run Android apps. This is to compete with Roku and the Apple TV and Kindle Fire, those to run Netflix and Hulu and others. There's also remote control that will have a microphone so you can do voice controls and search. This Nexus Player is made by Asus, and you can also buy an optional $39 controller for gaming to play Android games on there. So Windows 10 was announced a few weeks ago, and now more than 1 million people have signed up to test Windows 10 preview build. 200,000 pieces of feedback through Windows native feedback application have been given to Microsoft. One of my favorite one of those feedback is, how we have tabs now in the internet browsers like Chrome and others. One of the feedback is to have tabs in Microsoft Explorer, not Internet Explorer, but I'm talking about Explorer to go through files, and it'd be nice to have tabs in that to quickly move through the files, so we have to have multiple windows open. Well, less than half of these installs are running on virtual machines, and what that means is people are actually downloading this and using it as their main install. So Windows 10 is their native install on their computers. The team says that it's currently trying to categorize and process all of the feature requests and feedback that it is receiving. They promise to continue to revise and improve the OS before the launch, and I'm sure there'll be multiple revs of this software coming out for the preview review version. On Thursday, October 16th, Apple announced the updates to the new iPad line, desktops, and software. One of the biggest announcements was the new iPad Air 2. This is actually 18% thinner than the first iPad Air, if you care about that, from last year. It is a 6.1 millimeters thin. There's a new chipset, which is 40% faster than the first iPad Air from last year, and Apple says the device's graphics are 2.5 times faster as well. The rear camera is 8 megapixels, and also There is a Touch ID for fingerprint access to your device, so you can make purchases online and also for login, similar to the current iPhone. The device will start at $499 for 16 gigabyte version, and on up from there. And that actually goes up to the 128 gigabytes. The next iPad, the iPad Mini 3, also gets the Touch ID, but it's still using the last year's A7 processor. Not much has changed to the iPad Mini 3. Rear camera is only 5 megapixels, and basically all that's really changed is the addition of the Touch ID. The base 16 gigabyte model will sell for $399. So if you do not care about the Touch ID, I would just go with the iPad Mini 2. I believe it's $100 cheaper, even though it's last year's model. It's pretty much just the same thing. Also, new Mac computers were announced. The iMac will have, for the first time, a Retina 5K display, which is also a 27-inch screen. Big display there. A big resolution on this display. Now, this will start at $2,500 and include a 1 terabyte Fusion drive and 8 gigabytes of memory. Pretty expensive for a computer, but if you're into a lot of video production and other types of heavy computing processes, this may be for you. And finally, the Mac Mini gets a refresh. A new 4th generation Intel processor and 2 Thunderbolt 2 ports. The base model will carry a 1.4 gigahertz dual-core Intel Core i5 processor and HD Graphics 500 from Intel as well. This base model will have a 500 gigabyte hard drive, 4 gigabytes of memory. They'll have Iris graphics and the top-of-the-line Iris graphics and 8 gigabytes of memory and 1 terabyte of hard drive. This will start shipping this week, and it starts at $499. Apple Pay was also announced. This is the NFC payment system, will allow you to pay with your phone at stores, and in the future, people are hoping that can open your hotel doors and other things. And this will roll out Monday, October 20th for payment systems. And over 500 banks are now on board with this new payment system. The latest version of OS X for the Mac, Yosemite, is now available in the App Store as a free update to download. Not a whole lot changed in this version from the last one. So Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook, announced on his Facebook page this week that he and his wife, who is a physician, they have made a $25 million donation to the CDC, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. He said, he's quote saying, "We need to get Ebola under control in the near term so that it does not spread further and become a long-term global health crisis that we end up fighting for decades at a large scale, like HIV or polio." The money that he donated is only a fraction of the $1 billion that the WHO, World Health Organization, says is necessary to halt the further spread of the disease. Also, $50 million has been donated from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and $9 million donation from Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen. It's going to take more than money. It's also going to take, I believe, smarts from people when they're handling this. We've heard a lot of things about people just getting on airplanes who have been diagnosed, before they were diagnosed, but they said that they were sick. Also, shuffling people around the world to places that it has not been before, not a good idea. I think we need to put our smarts on more for handling this new virus. Moving on, lighter news. Star Wars Episode 7 art has been leaked online. There's paintings from this concept art, paintings showing an alien-looking being. He's called the Grave Robber. He's holding Darth Vader's helmet. Maybe he could become a new Darth Vader. Also, chrome stormtroopers and other character-related art, including a female Jedi. Excited to see this show. We'll see how it goes, and hopefully more information will follow. Continuing on with the movie news, new posters and banners for The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, have been released. One includes Martin Freeman as Bilbo Baggins, also Lee Pace as Thranduil. Galadriel is in one of the posters, reaching out in a scene of chaos to save Gandalf. Also, glimpses of the armies gathering for war. So this is making me more excited. I haven't enjoyed the first two movies that much. I mean, they were okay. They just kind of did a little bit too much, I think. Too much trying to put it into three movies. I would rather have seen it into two movies. One movie I think would have been not enough to tell the story. Two movies would have been fine. The movie is set to be released on December 17th of this year, so we got about 2 more months to go. Also, Jurassic Park 4 teaser poster, which says the park is open. I'm excited about this. I love dinosaurs. The movie stars Christopher Pratt, who is known for Parks and Recreation, also Guardians of the Galaxy. He was a Star-Lord in that, and also Bryce Dallas Howard. The film is set to be released on June 12th, 2015. Another movie, Pacific Rim 2. Pacific Rim 1, I liked a lot. I know it was corny and cheesy, but I like large monsters like Godzilla and large robots fighting. It's just a lot of fun to watch on the big screen. I don't care how good the characters are or the storyline is. So some people may have not liked it, but I'm excited for Pacific Rim 2. And this week, Legendary Pictures released a teaser poster for Pacific Rim 2. And also they talked about a possible third film. Guillermo del Toro wants to do a trilogy of these characters and also introduce new characters and new robots and new monsters and all sorts of possibilities. This Pacific Rim 2 is set to hit theaters on April 7th, 2017. Captain America 3. Okay, so last week I talked about how Robert Downey Jr. was going back and forth on whether he would be in Iron Man 4. There's still no information about that. However, this week news broke that he has signed on for Captain America 3. So we will see Iron Man in Captain America 3. This new movie is said to launch a new phase in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Civil War storyline for the 2006 comics. Now, I've read this storyline, and I really enjoyed it. A lot of fun. Basically, in this story, Iron Man and Captain America are fighting against each other over a registration act, a superhero registration act with the government, U.S. government. This would force anyone who has superpowers or super abilities to register their identities, reveal their identities to the U.S. government, and agree to act as sort of a police force for the government in all the states. And in this story, Iron Man is for the Registration Act, and Captain America fights against it. He sees it as a threat against individual rights, liberties, and safety of the heroes. Now, also in one of these posters that was released from Marvel and Disney, Spider-Man is in that poster. And he actually plays a large part in the story in the comics of the Civil War. Some are wondering if Disney and Marvel will try to purchase the movie rights back from Sony to include Spider-Man in this film and maybe possibly future films that will be fully under Marvel and Disney's control. Or they might rewrite the story to exclude him from the plot altogether. I hope not, because Spider-Man was a pretty big part of this story and him going back and forth and not knowing who to support, being Iron Man or Captain America. Also with Marvel news, over the weekend at New York Comic Con, Marvel confirmed that next year the series of Fantastic Four will be canceled with issue 642. This is actually just before the new movie for the Fantastic Four will be released next year. Some are speculating that the comic will be on hiatus for a while while the movie series is occurring. Since Marvel is owned by Disney, an ongoing comic could be seen as free publicity for a competing movie studio. So some are accusing them or just pulling it because they do not own the rights for the movies. I hope that someday Disney and Marvel can get all the rights for all their characters, including X-Men, Wolverine, like Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, under one roof, so they can flesh out these stories and have them overarching between the multiple movies and be related. I would love to see that. Moving on in sports this week, Kansas City, the Royals, they found themselves going to the World Series for the first time since 1985. They swept Baltimore Orioles, and they won 8 playoff games in a row. That's the first time in Major League playoff history. They have not lost this year in the playoffs. So they're going to the World Series next week. And then also San Francisco Giants beat the St. Louis Cardinals, who will meet the Royals next week in the World Series. Now, San Francisco Giants had last night a game-ending 3-run home run by Travis Ishikawa, and that was following a pinch-hitting Michael Morse home run to lead off in the 8th inning, who he tied at 3 overall, so he led up to that other 3-run home run. Game 1 of the World Series will be on Tuesday next week, October 21st, and that will begin in Kansas City. Let's talk about really quick last week's box office numbers. October 10th and 12th weekend numbers. Gone Girl was number 1 again, second week in a row, second week in the theaters at $26.4 million. Dracula Untold, the first week in the theaters, was $23.5 million. Alexander the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, $18.3 million first week in the movies. Annabelle, second week at $15.8. Now, it has made $61.86 million so far on a $6.5 million budget. So that is nearly $60 million profit. So teaching us that if you want to make money, make a cheap horror movie, people will go out and see it. And number 5, The Judge with $13.1 million, probably not going to make its money back. It's in its first week and only $13 million. Movies opening this weekend in wide release with their Rotten Tomatoes score. We got Fury, which is a World War II movie with Brad Pitt and Shia LaBeouf with rated R. 77% on Rotten Tomatoes is being fresh. The Book of Life, it's an animated movie for families with Channing Tatum and Zoe Saldana. It's PG with a 72% fresh rating. And then finally, Birdman with Michael Keaton and Lindsay Duncan. It's rated R, 93% Rotten Tomatoes rating. So very fresh on that one. Basically, that's a black comedy telling the story of an actor, and this actor is Michael Keaton, who's famous for portraying an iconic superhero named the Birdman, and he's struggling to mount a Broadway play. So interesting story. It's kind of interesting since Michael Keaton also played Batman when he was younger. So thank you for listening and your support as I continue to learn and create this project of the Weekly Geek News Show. Please leave your comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Any news you would like me to cover as it comes out this next week, please in the comments. And a new show should be available next Friday. I'm going to end this week on a video that I liked on YouTube this week of drones racing through a forest. These are quadcopter drones, and it kind of